people are like, well, we're trying to get you the most bang for your buck. And it's like, no, you're not. Because if that were the case, then you guys be more willing to do free file. Is that the goal, the interest isn't in the workers or the customer. Is the goal is the interest to maximize profits. That goes away. Next year, starting really on January 1st, many people will begin the process of paying the government or getting a return in money from their government. Tax season is going to be upon us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the story about why TurboTax and the company, parent company Intuit, is so problematic. But I'm also going to be giving solutions on how to be able to file your taxes without going through such a problematic company. Also, we need to talk about how this intersects with how it harms workers. And that's one of the things I want to do for you guys today. So there's a story that recently came out of ProPublica. And ProPublica does a lot of great reporting. They do wonderful reporting, especially in regards to things that workers really go through, just the regular people. And so I would like to give a shout out to them for this report that they put out. It says, inside TurboTax's 20-year fight to stop Americans from filing their taxes for free. The blurb says, using lobbying, the revolving door, and dark pattern customer tricks, Intuit fended off the government's attempts to make tax filing free and easy and created this multi-billion-dollar franchise. So let's get into this, because I think that I want everybody to be as informed as possible. And so we'll get into this right now. So as far as what's going on, it says for more than 20 years, Intuit, which is the parent company of TurboTax, has waged a sophisticated, sometimes covert war to prevent the government from doing just that. So what that is, it says the success of TurboTax rests on shaky foundation, one that could collapse overnight if the U.S. government did what most wealthy countries did long ago and made tax filing simple and free for most of its citizens. So this is something that is more unique to the United States, that tax filing is actually not free for its citizens. Who'd have thunk it, right? We talk about healthcare, we talk about housing, we talk about education, but what about tax filing? Right? We got to file our taxes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Japan, they do all the calculations for you. You do not have to wonder and sift through, like, what do you need to do? Like, especially if it's just simple filing, they already know. It's the IRS. Like, when you get your paycheck, it's already shown, like, how much is taxes taken out and what you pay for, line item by line item. So if they already know this, why do you have to file taxes if it's simple, one and done? Right? Why do you have to do that? So this is the part that I find very interesting. It's like we actually have to pay people to give the government information that they typically already have. So it says, according to internal company and IRS documents and interviews for insiders, it says the company unleashed a battalion of lobbyists that hire top officials from the agency that regulates it. From the beginning, Intuit recognized that its success depended on two parallel missions: stoking innovation in Silicon Valley while stifling it in Washington. It says the employees ruefully joke that the company's motto should actually be compromise without integrity. So I want to get into this. Says internal documents lay out company tactics for fighting encroachment, into its catch-all term for any government initiative to make filing taxes easier, such as creating a free government filing system or pre-filing people's returns with payroll or other data the IRS already has. For a decade, proposals have sought to create IRS tax software or return-free tax system. All were stopped. And says the company's 2014 to 2015 plan included manufacturing third-party grassroots support by ads for op-eds, editorial stories, and African American and Latino media. Why would they want to go into African American and Latino media? Maybe, just maybe, it has to do with those of us who are largely more disproportionately affected economically into being depressed within this nation. And so who's going to be the ones that are most likely to want to file for free? Us, right? And so they got to demonize it as much as they possibly can, because if the IRS actually had a system where they filed the taxes for you for free, what would happen to companies like Intuit and their website TurboTax? What will happen? What will happen to the Jackson Hewitts? What will happen to the H&R Blocks, right? What will happen to them? This is what we're getting into, guys, and it goes deep. All right. Says the centerpiece of Intuit's anti-encroachment strategy has been the free file program hatched 17 years ago in a moment of crisis for the company. Under the terms of an agreement with the federal government, Intuit and other commercial tax prep companies promised to provide free online filing for tens of millions of lower income taxpayers. In exchange, the IRS pledged not to create a government-run system. So basically, their fear was if it was a government-run system, we're done, because everybody's going to want to go on it. So they basically said, okay, well, why don't you let us do it for free, and then we'll get into how they got around it. But they're like, have us do it for free. Don't you guys start anything, right? And this goes in line with what, like, for instance, the big insurance companies, like, they are afraid of having a single payer healthcare system, because they're going to be like, well, we can't compete against the government, because if the government actually has single payer healthcare system, then that means everybody who goes to Aetna, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, United, and many other different health insurance companies, they would drop them like a rock, and then they would move over to a healthcare system that is single payer for everybody. It would literally make the healthcare company, the health insurance companies, the private health insurance companies obsolete. A government-ran filing tax service that does it for free for you would make companies like TurboTax, H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, Tax Act, all these companies would be obsolete, because it's like, why am I going through you when I can just go straight through the government and have my taxes filed? Why am I paying you for when I can have this stuff already done for me? And then no doubt somebody would go, okay, well, even let's say hypothetically the United States government actually did that. Then somebody can go, okay, I'm going to go to the free one that the government provides, and then I'm also going to go through TurboTax, and I'm going to compare and contrast. And then they go, and it's like, okay, the government crunches the exact same numbers, and they come to the same conclusion. The only difference is with TurboTax, I'm actually paying them to do it. With the government, I'm actually not paying anything at all. Or let's say you got a slightly smaller return with the government, And then you got a larger return with TurboTax, but you still got to pay TurboTax, which means you roughly come out the same anyway. See what I mean? It's not worth it, right? Why are we constantly okay with middlemen when it comes to the things that we have to do in life? Like, we have to pay taxes, right? We live in a civilized society, okay. But the problem is, like, why are we having middlemen to be able to do the taxes? And why is the tax code so difficult to peruse through to figure out? That's a great question. Why does it have to be this complex? Why does it have to be this complicated? Let's get into this a little bit further. It says, since Free File's launch, Intuit has done everything it could to limit the program's reach while making sure the government stuck to its end of the deal. Now, it says Intuit added code to the Free File landing page of TurboTax that hid it from search engines like Google, making it harder for would-be users to find. So you can search all you want on Google. Get on Google and be like, oh, filing taxes for free or free TurboTax or what have you. And you're not going to find it. You're not going to get the link because they hide it. So yes, they said, oh yeah, let us do the free filing, but they don't make it available to you to actually access. Or they make it harder for you to access to file for free. Now, I remember years ago, Hassan Minhaj, when he had his Netflix show, he actually did a report on this. Crazy that a comedian had to do a report on it, and it actually resulted in TurboTax looking like a fool, because they are. They look like greedy merchants, and which they are. And so, figuring this all out, well, TurboTax basically is guilty of all the things that were claimed. Hiding the link to the free file, which they are supposed to, which they have an agreement with the IRS and the government that they're supposed to allow free filing for people who are low income. This is capitalism. That greed is insatiable. So even if you're low income, they don't care. They're going to try to get money from you anyway. And we'll go through that as we go further and deeper into this. So it says 12 years ago, Intuit launched its own free product, the similarly named free edition of TurboTax. But unlike the government program, this one comes with traps that can push customers lured with the promise of free into paying some more than $200. Free edition was a smash hit for Intuit in its pitch for free. Prep remains core to the company's growth. Recently, it launched a free ad campaign for the free edition, including a crossword puzzle in the New York Times, which the answer to every clue was free. Says Intuit knows it's deceiving its customers. Internal company documents obtained by ProPublica show the website lists free, and the customers are assuming the return will be free. Now, that was from a PowerPoint presentation. It says customers are getting upset. Here is the internal findings here. It says the website lists free, and the customers are assuming their return is free. Agents are suggesting an upgrade for customers when they don't need it. It says customers need help on their taxes and seem to think if they click on live tax advice, they will get someone live to assist them. They click upgrade and are moving up to live without knowing it. Customers are getting upset when they have to pay more for upgrade, and the only way to downgrade is to clear and start over. Some customers are realizing they have been upgraded only when they notice the increased charge. Agents are struggling to help customers. They seem to not know the troubleshooting steps. Okay. It says Intuit also continues to use dark patterns, design tricks to get users of its website to do things that they don't necessarily mean to do, to ensure that as many customers as possible pay former employees say. A marketing concept frequently invoked at Intuit, which goes by the acronym FUD, seeks to tap into Americans' fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the tax filing process. So one thing I know, and this is from when, and guys, make sure to take the poll. But one thing I know whenever I would use TurboTax for tax filing purposes is I'm nervous the entire time. Because one wrong move, it's like, oh my God, if I do something wrong, if I do one wrong thing, the IRS is going to come after me. I messed up. The IRS is coming after me. So they use that fear to maneuver you into upgrading, even though you don't need it. And you are entitled and you qualify for just filing for free. But they want you to pay, so they will make it seem like they're going to help you out even further to file for free. They're going to show that in a second. Let's get to it. It says an Intuit spokesperson declined to answer ProPublica's detailed questions about its efforts to fend off government filing system. And they say they provide a statement that says we empower our customers to take control of their financial lives, which includes being in charge of their own tax preparation. Because government-run pre-filled tax preparation systems that makes the tax collector, who is also the investigator, auditor, enforcer, the tax preparer is fraught with conflicts of interest. Okay, so basically they're saying that if you're paying taxes, then that means the person who's charging you shouldn't be guessing, or they shouldn't be calculating what you owe, right? Which is kind of funny because they're speaking as if the government needs profit. They don't need profit. They're the government. They print the money. Governments do not need profit to run. They are the government. We literally have a fiat currency. They don't need it. They can just print it. So the problem is that they're speaking as if, because basically Intuit is basically saying, well, this is what we would do if we were the government. But governments don't need to accrue money that way. They just don't. The only reason why governments need to tax, and I'm speaking about the federal government, is to pull money out of the system to prevent inflation and to keep a check on power of people getting too rich. On top of that, is to, especially for more state and municipal governments, is to use that tax money in order to fund programs. But government, the way we have federal government now, do we really need the tax money? They could just print it. And the problem with that is, as far as the taxes go, they continuously borrow from corporations in order to be able to have the money. But at the same time, they still print it. One person who I recommend to listen to regarding this is Professor Richard Wolff. He can explain it much better than I can. But ultimately, we live in a fiat we have a fiat currency, and we live in an economy where the government does not necessarily need the money, but at the same time, because of their cooperation with big corporations and them wanting to make as much money as possible, they basically put themselves in the corner on top of taking us off the gold standard, and now we have the petrodollar, all these different things. So it's very convoluted. And so continues here, says the IRS is seemingly the biggest threat to Intuit and other commercial tax prep businesses, but has more frequently acted in the industry's ally, defending the free file program even in the face of critical internal reviews. The IRS declined to comment for this article. So I want to skip forward just a little bit. So that's the CEO in the jersey next to Gene Simmons of KISS, right? And the employees are really sycophants. They talk about that at the beginning of the article. Let me go here. It says the danger to Intuit's growing business was obvious. If the government succeeded in creating a system that allowed the vast majority of taxpayers to file online for free, TurboTax profits would plummet. Intuit recognized that the notion of return-free filing was not going away on its own. It says in 1998, the company hired Bernie McKay, a one-time Carter administration aide and senior lobbyist to AT&T, to be its vice president for corporate affairs. Intuit executives like to talk about having a customer obsession in developing their products. McKay's obsession is stopping government encroachment. Known to physically bang the table to drive home a point, McKay's style is aggressive to the point of offense, said one top fellow tax prep lobbyist. An Intuit spokesman said this mischaracterization of Mr. K is pure fiction. McKay, for his part, when asked at a recent tax industry conference which Star Wars character he is, he responded, Darth Vader. So this is a detailed article that I would like to give you guys, to show you guys, because what's happening really with this is they are doing what they can to diminish free filing from any and everybody that they can. And so they're trying to also monopolize the tax prep industry. So it's limited really to just H&R Block and TurboTax. Everything else is much more smaller. They have way less market share. Now here it says, what's more, free wasn't as unprofitable as it sounded. The alliance, guided by a lawyer who is also an Intuit lobbyist, won a series of concessions that made the program palatable to industry. Free file only required its companies to offer free federal returns. They could charge for other products. The state return was the most common, but they could also pitch loans, quote unquote, audit defense, or even products that had nothing to do with taxes. Now, I never had to worry about the state return because we don't have a state income tax here in Florida. But many other states do. So let's say you have to file your taxes and you want to do the free, right? Okay, let's say you live in Colorado or New Jersey or New York or California, whatever, wherever they have state taxes, right? And you file your federal tax return with TurboTax. But let's say you're in New Jersey and you need to file your state return too. You file your federal return is absolutely free, but the state return, that's where they get you. And now they're charging you money for the state return. And so that's the problem, is that they're going to get you no matter what, because you know you have to file the state return, but the federal return is free. There's also another thing that they do, which is very nefarious too. Says there was little incentive for the companies to publicize a free alternative to their paid products, and the IRS agreed that the free file offers need to only be listed on a special page of the agency's website. For Intuit, it was a major victory in a war against encroachment. The company could now focus on turning whatever new customers they acquired through the program into paying users both that year and in the future. The first year of free file was 2003, and for Intuit, things went well. So it says, but the next year, Intuit began to lose control of its creation. A scrappy competitor, TaxAct, decided to use free file stand out. The company decided it would try to pick up as many new customers as possible and then charge them for ancillary services. Instead of following Intuit's lead and constraining its offer to a subset of low-income taxpayers, TaxAct went the opposite direction. Why not go for an offer that's much simpler to understand? So it said it began advertising the pitch of free federal online tax preparation and e-filing for all taxpayers, no restrictions, everyone qualifies. Now here's for TurboTax. It says on their free file page, it was more difficult to parse. So it says if you are eligible for EIC, which is Earned Income Credit, are 22 years of age or younger, age 62 or older, or active military with a W-2. So those were how you file for free, right? So basically they tried to get more of these companies to limit any type of free filing so that they can make more money. And so let me go here. Intuit viewed the popularity of free file as a serious threat and took this case to Congress. That year, Brad Smith, then a senior vice president of the company and head of TurboTax, told the House committee that the current Free File Alliance program has drifted very far from its original public service purpose and objective. The program wasn't supposed to be for everyone. Said it was for the disadvantaged, underprivileged, and underserved taxpayer populations. And says Intuit's argument quickly gained traction in the IRS. Already in March 2005, the IRS had written to the Justice Department for legal advice on modifying the free file program. The agency wanted to know, would it run afoul of antitrust laws if the IRS barred companies in the Free File Alliance from offering a free product to everyone? The Justice Department responded in a 2005 May letter. Clearly wrote Renata Hess, an antitrust section chief of the department, says any agreement among alliance members to restrict such free service is likely a form of price fixing and thus illegal. But there was still a way for Intuit to get what it wanted. She wrote it that if the IRS itself were to impose such a restriction, it would be legal. So the IRS swooped in to beat back Intuit's competition, doing for Intuit what the company was not able to do, what is on its own. Despite just 5 million Americans using a program that was purportedly available to 80 million, the IRS agreed that free file needed to be reined in. And so I'm telling you guys this because a lot of us, we are in a cost of living crisis, right? This cost of living crisis is exacerbated by us having to file our taxes. And while filing our taxes, now you got companies like Intuit that are digging more into our pockets and taking money away, knowing that we have to do this. And if we don't, we'll get audited. We may get jailed. We may get arrested. We may get our wages garnished. So we have to do it. And they do that. And they know that we're scared of not doing it. And so they count on that. And this is the problem with capitalism, because they're so focused on pursuing profit that they're willing to screw over the working people of this country in order to do it. And then on top of that, they will fake having uh, access to free filing, or they will manipulate it so that it is extremely difficult to get to. And so it tricks people into filing and being charged to file. And these are people who qualify for free filing. And so this is the one of the biggest issues that I see that we really have to focus in on. And that's the problem with the system that we have right now. I am personally of the opinion that we should just basically have free filing through the IRS. Why do we have a middleman? Why do we have these corporations that they're not there to actually help us legitimately? They're there to just make money off of our fears that if we don't file, well, they're going to, then we're going to get screwed over by the IRS. We have to pay anyway. And people are like, well, we're trying to get you the most bang for your buck. And it's like, no, you're not. Because if that were the case, then you guys be more willing to do free file. Is that the goal, the interest isn't in the workers or the customer. Is the goal is the interest to maximize profits. That goes away. So I put the link to this article in the description for you guys to take a look at. But this is very detailed article. It's a long article too, so take your time with it. But I say stay away from TurboTax. Just stay away from them. Don't use them if you can, because they're going to try to drive you to charge you for filing your taxes, especially if you're just a regular worker with a W-2, right? And then that's all you really need to do is just like try to find ways to file for free if you can. Because ultimately, companies like Intuit, they're just trying to maximize profits, and we're supposed to have an apparatus for people to file for free. And I don't understand why we should have to pay somebody to do it. Like in places like Japan, they actually don't need that. They actually calculate it all for you. And then if they owe you, then they'll just pay you, right? And if you owe them, then they'll require payment. But it's not that difficult. Like what? It shouldn't be this complex. And the crazy part is, part of the article is talking about TurboTax needs it to be complex so that you need companies like TurboTax. This is why they don't want to ever change the tax code, because they're lobbying with the government to say, don't change the tax code, because if you change the tax code and simplify it, then that means that people aren't going to need us as much. And that's the part. Because it's not pro-worker. It never was. And there's something else I'm going to show you. Because when I was looking at this, I was thinking of the phrase follow the money. And part of one thing I was told that it makes sense, but because it was verbalized last night, I realized it at the Edu Forum at Real last night. They were talking to Marxist-Leninist business owners. And one of them said that he was trying to make sure that all of the dealings in his business were completely divested out of Israel. until he looked at the payment processors, right? You got the credit card machine, you got, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, right? Because people use their card more than anything now. And they invest in Israel too. So every single time you swipe your card or every single time you pay for something online, guess what? That's money going to Israel. Including when you pay your taxes, including when you have your taxes processed and filed. Let's take a look at this, because I thought about it, and shout out to Cliff, because you put this idea in my head and I looked into it. Out of the Times of Israel, U.S. fintech firm Intuit to grow R&D presence in Israel. Financial software giant to set up new campus in Petah Tikva with space for 500 staff, looking to acquire additional Israeli startups. This came out 6 years ago. It says U.S. fintech firm Intuit is planning to almost triple its research and development team in Israel. Vijay Anand, the company's senior vice president for global development centers, told the Times of Israel. The firm has signed a lease to set up a new R&D campus in Petah Tikva that has the capacity to increase staff up to 500, up from its current employee count of 180. Because we lease the space for up to 500 today, but of course, the sky's the limit. Speaking at the sidelines of a cybersecurity conference last month in Tel Aviv University, Intuit provides financial management and compliance software and services for small businesses, consumers, self-employed, and accounting professionals in the United States, Canada, and elsewhere. The firm, founded in 1983, went public 10 years later with the share on sale to NASDAQ, and today employs 9,000 workers in 19 locations in 9 countries. So this is Intuit, the owner of TurboTax. And they are invested in Israel. So here's another reason to stop using TurboTax. That's a big reason. It's a big reason. Now, if you're using QuickBooks as a business owner, and here's the problem, that may be the only thing on the market right now that you can use. Is there another different software? Maybe, but they might be tied to Israel too. And this also is the argument for there's no ethical consumption in capitalism, because the tentacles are everywhere. Because even when you pay your taxes, guess what? Our government's literally giving money to Israel too. You can maybe try to diminish how much is given to them, but in the end, they're going to get some of it. This is why it is required that we change the system. We dismantle this system and rebuild a completely new system. Reform does not, has not, and will not work. This is why we say leave both parties. And when it comes to doing what you can, do mutual aid, build dual power. Now, a lot of people last week voted for mayor, right? And governor last week. Some people went with Zoran Mamdani in New York. And while voting can be a piece of what needs to be done, it is not the main thing that should be done. I'm going to repeat. While voting is a piece of something that can be done, it is not the main thing that should be done. I'll put it like this. You're making a cake, right? You got the flour, the sugar, you got the baking powder, maybe the baking soda too. You got the eggs, and then you have things like vanilla extract, or cocoa powder or lemon extract, whatever, things like that, right? Can you make a cake without vanilla extract? Yeah, you can make a cake without vanilla extract. You can substitute it with cocoa powder. You can substitute it with almond extract. You can substitute it with lemon extract. There's many different flavorings you can use, right? But can you make a cake without flour? A traditional cake, can you make one without flour? No, you can't. You need the flour. That's the basis for that cake. Voting is the vanilla extract. But flour is the mutual aid and dual power. You could do mutual aid and dual power, and then if you feel the need to vote, cool. But if you're just voting, will anything truly be accomplished without you doing mutual aid and building dual power? You're just flavoring. You're not actually adding to really actually make the cake. Not really much is going to come from it. This is why you can add the flour, but no vanilla extract, or you can add the flour and include vanilla extract. But the flour has to be there. It's the same thing. Mutual aid and building dual power has to be there. That is the main thing. And this is why you get those Republicans and Democrats to say, all you got to do is vote, because they know that if you do anything that involves adding the flour, they don't want that cake to be made. That's why they say, just focus on the vanilla extract. Just focus on the cocoa powder. Just focus on the cinnamon. They want you to focus just on that. They don't want you to focus on what actually makes the cake the cake. So make the cake, baby. Make the cake. Now, if you want to add the vanilla extract or the cinnamon or the cocoa powder, you want to add that? Go ahead. Fine. Cool. But let's make sure we have our priorities in place. That's why I say what I said. Now, people are going to go, JB, okay, you said all that, but what solution is there if we can't use something like TurboTax? I'm glad you asked. Now, it may not be the perfect solution, but it is a solution. Go straight to them. IRS.gov. Direct file taxes for free directly with the IRS. So it says prepare and file your federal taxes online directly with the IRS. It's always free, easy to use, accurate, and secure. It says have an IRS account, then use the same sign in for direct file to verify your identity. So here's the eligibility. It says you can use direct file if you lived and worked in a participating state and report certain income, credits, and deductions. Answer a few questions to find out direct file is the right option for your 2024 taxes. So this is for 2024. It's going to update starting January 1st for 2025. But basically, you have Alaska, Arizona, California, Connecticut, Florida, Idaho, Illinois, Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington State, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. So you have these particular ones, right? Like for instance, there's states like Mississippi aren't on here. Alabama's not on here. So some states aren't on there. But a huge chunk of states are on there, right? It says you can't use direct file if you don't live or work in one of these states for all of 2024. It's going to update 2025, but it says now the income that you get that qualifies you is if you have a W-2 wage income, which a huge amount of us will have, Social Security Administration 1099 Social Security income, or the SSA 1099, the 1099G unemployment compensation, 1099 INT interest income, 1099R retirement income, 1099 MISC or miscellaneous for Alaska residents reporting the Alaska Permanent Fund dividend. You can't use direct file if you have other types of income such as gig economy, rental, or business income. So then these are the credits that you get: earned income credit, child tax credit, credit for other dependents, child and dependent care credit, premium tax credit, credit for elderly or disabled, and retirement savings contributions credit. It says if you live in Washington State, direct file will guide you to your state site where you can apply for the working families tax credit. And then it talks about the deductions, filing state returns. So it doesn't do file a state return. So you will have to do it separately. But maybe on your state's website, if you can go to your state and file with your state, you might be able to do it for free in your state. So you'll probably just have to do it twice. You might have to do federal and state separately, but at least you're not paying any money to do it. Or even if it is from the state, it might be cheaper. And then they also will have customer support, right? And they say they have free options. Those free options may be other sites that you could possibly use. And I would try to stay away from TurboTax and Intuit if at all possible. So this is also linked in the description below. So we literally have like about a month and a half left before January 1st. So you guys actually have a month and a half before we start tax season. But one thing I will say is that, you know, we have to find ways to at least minimize the harm that is done with our money. We can't completely eliminate it because this system is so deeply ingrained in doing it. But I think it's important that we do what we can, when we can, how we can, and also helping other people to be able to do the same, so then we can actually have, more peace of mind while we build dual power and try to end the system. And so, I'll be trying to do the best that I can, and honestly, easier said than done, but it can be done. So, if you guys would like to share this particular video so that people know what's what, but I think it's important that we focus on where our money goes. We got to follow the money, and this also will strengthen us, in our minds to try to end the system so that our money goes to something more dignified and worthwhile in the future.